is also handling the media. He's like, or not the media, but at least NCAA.
Yeah.
About what he had to say about just them and their scheduling and just the lack of consideration for coaches and players in terms of what their setup looks like, what their practice times are, when they're asked questions, when they know the status of the game days ahead.
Is this
Just
specific to the tournament or is this
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
I didn't see the comments, so that's why.
Like it's basically the scheduling, right? Like the men, I think the last game was played Sunday. They don't play again till Saturday. But as for the women, they wrapped up. Yeah, it's shorter because they put the women's national championship before the men. And so South Carolina ended up having to travel from, I want to say they were in Sacramento to Phoenix the same night that they won the region, which is crazy. So,
Which back to our point about the W, what I'm not understanding is, especially on the college level, right? Like on the pro level, I could maybe understand why there are a few more barriers maybe to work through, and you're competing with more professional leagues, so to say. So it's a little different. But for college basketball specifically, in this time frame where everybody in the world is paying attention to college basketball, from the standpoint of maybe needing to spread things out, so you got the women a day behind through the Elite Eight, cool, whatever. That Final Four championship weekend, you can't convince me that you can't put the women's Final Four in the afternoon since you got the men's Final Four games in the evening anyway. And shoot me, not for real, but shoot me if I'm wrong for thinking that you can have two championship games on Monday. Now you might have to start the first game a little earlier than you like, maybe 6, maybe in a 5:30 start, so the men's game isn't starting super late. But I mean, hell, forgive me if I'm wrong, but the National Football
mhm.
championship for college, that game, that start time was relatively late. It wasn't early, know that much. I don't know
Mhm.
if it was 8 or not, but it was relatively late. So I don't think too many people gonna be upset if the men's championship game, if that was gonna be the argument. Like if that game doesn't start until 8 o'clock, but you was watching the game before that started at 6 or 6:30, however you want to, do the time or whatever. I think that's extremely feasible. And I think that just gets more eyes on the women in general. So to that point, I don't understand why you flip it and then put more pressure and more strenuous circumstances on the women with their travel and their practice and everything, all because you want to move them up because you're treating, the men's side as the better product when again, college basketball, this time frame, this particular product of March Madness, I don't see any reason why you're not just consolidating it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I don't understand either. Part of me wants to just boil it down to media rights, got to make your money by broadcasting, that type of thing. Um, but it is an issue. Like Gino even said prior to Sedona Prince putting out that video of the weight room, he wasn't even aware that there was a weight room. And I'm just like, really? Like, that's insane. So definitely there needs to be some changes made, but this isn't in the best interest of the student athlete. And I felt that way with the whole conference situation. Like
Yeah.
USC is in a conference with Rutgers that's on the other side of the country. That's
That's crazy.
crazy.
makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you got everything at this point, and not just in college sports, but as we can see across America, a lot of things being done in the name of capitalism.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it has trickled down to where it is at this point harmful from a just player safety standpoint, how they have to travel in comparison to the men. Um, Even crazier than thinking about teams like Stanford and Cal being in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And they are on the other side of the map completely from those schools that they share a conference with. A lot of things that got done based on or college football that have now bled over into college basketball and made the worst product on both sides. So just a lot that plays into that, but ultimately, I think the women should still have their own day to play their national championship game. I just think y'all can put a lot more effort into making it truly feel like a championship environment,
Mhm.
the same way that you do the men's, even if theoretically they may make a little bit less money. And in reality, they probably make just as much money. Y'all just can benefit from the narrative being that they don't.
And really quick. I just noticed too, I forgot who pointed it out, or else I would give credit. But the women were not allowed to use the phrase March Madness for a very long time. Like if you notice, it's always been NCAA Women's Basketball Championship or something. Like never March Madness like the men get to use. And I'm looking at kind of like the logos nowadays. I could see it on ESPN. It does say like Women's March Madness. But I was looking on the floor. I forgot which round it was, but it literally did not say March Madness on there.
That is crazy. Yeah, the
Yeah.
more well, Josh, you made a lot of good points about how this is just a small example of how things are looking countrywide, worldwide, all those things. And that point about how college football, like those effects have translated. I didn't even think about that connection, but that conference switching, yeah, I didn't even think about how that was going to impact, basketball because it applies in football, but I think because college football is the thing that it is, that's the last thing people is worried about. But man, no,
And
that
it's
impact is
weekly.
yeah, like that impact is
Yeah.
crazy. But Josh, you make a great point in terms of the women do deserve to have their own day. And honestly, that still to me speaks to the point of not moving them up. Just keep the same schedule. So let their final four be on Sunday and let their championship be on Tuesday. Why push them forward, if you've been having them behind, or I guess move them up to begin with. Like, I don't know how much
Hmm.
that would impact from like a conference tournament. And I know you still got selection Sunday and everything. Are the girls on Sunday too, or do they get selected on Monday?
They get selected on Monday night, I
Yep.
believe.
Okay. I don't know why they got everything a day behind. Figure it out. It's not that
Yeah.
hard, man.
Well, and I'm also just thinking about even like the small things of I don't think it was last year's national championship, but the last national championship that South Carolina won. They played that championship game on a Sunday at like 2 p.m.
It's
Yes.
Like
always super early on Sunday.
Yes.
like put it in prime time.
Yeah.
And it also was not like you didn't have like worthy teams. You had Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks versus Caitlin Clark and the Iowa
Yep.
Hawkeyes. You could have put that on Monday night against anything, and you would have gotten the ratings that you need. So I
Exactly.
just think it's a little bit of laziness in wanting to overdo the men's product when in reality, if we just look back through the last 5 to 10 years of men's tournaments, we got maybe a handful of teams that we can remember standing out, or a handful of moments that can remember standing out. We just brought up randomly the Paige Buckers Iowa game, and that was literally an Elite Eight game a couple of years ago that nobody's probably talking about. But you still have a level of star power that you're able to develop on the women's side, partially because they have to stay in school for at least 3 years.
Hmm.
Another point that we'll probably get to with the NBA tanking situation. But you have some star power that you can bank on both in the coaching ranks and in the ranks of the players on the women's side that you just don't get to bank on in the same way every year on the men's side.
Yeah, really good point. Gail, I feel like you was about to ask something, or it looked like you were.
I was. It was some nonsense. Oh,
Let it
Hey,
loose.
proud of you for restraint, man. Proud of
Look
you.
at
I was gonna say, all right, here we go. I'm gonna spread misinformation.
Oh God.
So actually, Ashley brought up why they didn't use March Madness for the women's side. It was actually basketball's a very forward-thinking game, especially, for our black women. They didn't want to identify our black women. We're not going to say they are mad and that they are consumed in madness. So, James Naismith, very forward, just never labeled it that for the women's side, just in consideration for them. But we're in a moment in time now where we have athletes, they can show emotion. We know we could separate women between their emotions, and we have some very feisty women's players out there, and they're allowed to show that. So now I think we're just embracing the culture. But he was just a little bit ahead of the curve. He didn't want to say that you guys have induced mania when it's your month, and that you're gonna act up come February and March, because we don't believe that here in the game of basketball.
And see, you're absolutely right because, with everybody not blowing Angel Reese out of proportion when she pointed to her ring finger, that to me symbolized that we are moving forward. in our way of thinking in terms of women and their celebrations. And so maybe March Madness can be reintroduced to the women's game. So I totally agree.
Yeah, shout out James Naismith.
Yeah.
Started this all.
Yeah, great philosopher he was.
Yes.
Love the forward thinking of it
Hey,
all.
James, if you're still here, come back up on the pod. Hey, if you want to,
Bye, Miguel.
As we,
hey, Steve's TV has great connection. Drop off.
hey, that's insane. You're sick.